9 years ago, 2012, the United Nations initiated a conference on sustainable development called Rio+20. The result was what became known as 17 Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. The target for achievement is 2030 or 18 years since the Rio+20 conference. 2 of the 17 goals are directly related to the type and use of our energy sources, namely goals number 7 Affordable Clean Energy, and number 13 Climate Action. This year the world has reached half of the time frame of the 2030 target. We can see the results together. Even before the world was hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, the target was still very far away, especially after the world economy was devastated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Until half of the time, our energy is still dominated by fossil energy, especially oil and coal. Energy sources from these fossils today certainly cannot be said to be affordable, because not all countries have sufficient resources. Apart from not being affordable, certainly these are not the clean energy intended at the conference. Why do fossil energy, i.e. such as petroleum and coal which are left to take from the bowels of the earth become expensive energy for most of the world's people? Among other things, exploration and processing of fossil energy requires enormous capital, sophisticated and expensive technology and labor that has to be paid handsomely because the work environment is indeed very harsh. Due to these factors, fossil energy such as oil and coal cannot be reached by the entire population of the Earth. Moreover, their control is generally dominated by the world's giant companies, which of course in each of their operations have commercial targets and market control which they consider reasonable. So as long as the world relies on fossil energy such as oil and new coal, the SDGs target number 7, namely affordable and clean energy, which was agreed by countries in the world since 9 years ago, is unlikely to be achieved. Since target number 7 is directly related to target number 13, namely climate action, it is also impossible to achieve target number 13 if target number 7 is not achieved. As a result, the world must think and work very hard to achieve its SDGs target in the remaining half of the time. If the deadline for achieving all 17 SDGs is to be achieved by 2030 remain. One form of thinking hard and working hard is being willing to learn from the history of the very past. In prehistoric times, early humans had simple necessities of life. The energy needed from nature was only fire. With fire they built their first civilization. The raw materials for making fire could be obtained by all humans who lived at that time, so the skill of making fire was the skill of the average prehistoric man. Nobody controlled natural resources for himself or his group, and no one had patented the science of making fire. There are no instruments to exploit other people and nations with the advantages of capital, science, technology and skills. The irony is, humans who live in this supermodern era need so much various forms of energy, but at the same time very few actually master energy sources, their exploration, processing, and distribution. This is what happens to modern humans. In fact, we are easily exploited by other people who have the advantage of natural resources, science, technology, capital and skills. All these advantages become an instrument to take the maximum advantage, and make other humans depend on it. So learning from this ancient society that was free of energy, what can we do to achieve the SDGs target number 7 and automatically? Why also number 13? First, the people must be willing to learn that energy sources are not only fossils, and obviously not only oil and coals. Anything that can generate heat or fire can be a source of energy. Because these heat-producing resources are of many kinds, and they are also very pervasive, so modern humans must be smarter than prehistoric humans. We must be able to access all forms of these heat sources as our new renewable energy source. It will be even smarter if we can process problems or what have been considered to be environmental burdens, such as CO2 emissions, into raw materials for renewable hydrocarbon energy. Not only for fuel, CO2 can also be processed into future materials such as carbon nanomaterials, as well as raw material for human food production through photosynthesis in plants. Second, in an era when information sources are so abundant as today, all the latest research and development results can always be accessed by those who want to work hard to study them. So access to science and technology must also be mastered by anyone who wants to do it in the world. Science and technology should be a means of sharing, not a means for the exploitation of some people over others. But the mastery of science and technology alone will not be sufficient without being supported by the ability to apply them in the field, and the ecosystem that supports them. That is why we must take responsibility in managing this energy. Independent people cooperate with each other in an equal position, not one working for the other. With all the resources of science, technology and willingness to share, if we really work hard to bring clean energy affordability to all humanity by 2030 as targeted by the Rio+20 conference above, it is still very possible to achieve this within these 9 years. Great work has started on the after-oil Indonesia ecosystem. Component by component of the independent energy machine that we design has begun to actually be made. It could be. This is only a small step for mankind. Because we also do not pretend to be able to solve the mountains of the world's energy problems. But at least this will be a big change for the people affected. Initially, people in the archipelago in the most remote islands, in disaster areas, war zones or boycott areas whose energy supply is disrupted because they have to be imported from outside the region. Soon they will be able to meet their own energy needs. Clean and affordable energy.